One emotion that I notice people tend to really struggle with identifying and managing is embarrassment. So today I want to talk a little bit about what is embarrassment, why do we have it, and how to work with it practically. Another piece that I'll weave in is the difference between embarrassment and shame, because sometimes embarrassment's a pretty normal feeling. Shame can be if it's short term, but we have to be really careful to identify whether we're actually full of shame or embarrassment. So I'll tell you a quick story. A couple weeks ago, I connected with a person and we started to build a relationship. It was very early on, so this is very very early on. And it was interesting because when this connection developed, I experienced a kind of energy or I wouldn't say it was an actual connection because we didn't really know each other, but this kind of weird like draw towards them that I hadn't really ever experienced before. So it was very interesting. And in that kind of heightened experience, made some pretty significant missteps, which potentially contributed to the relationship not working out. I don't know if it's the only reason, but definitely contributed. And what I found after the fact, kind of realizing this, I first validated my own experience of what happened, both while it was happening and then my experience kind of reflecting more later on, because those were slightly different experiences. So that was the first step, is just identifying and validating, because there's a tendency in my mind to want to kind of become bigger and badder instead of just letting myself be vulnerable. So I might feel embarrassed or a little bit of shame, and instead of kind of sitting with that, I'll go to blaming other people or situations or kind of getting anxious around how do I never have that happen again, which all of those mindsets are helpful, but you do have to start with just letting yourself have the feeling. Letting yourself be seen, because that's one of the ways we often get embarrassed, is we break social norms or we show up in a way that, isn't really our go-to approach, but it came up and that makes us feel self-conscious or overly aware. One piece that also becomes important is really identifying the difference between shame and embarrassment. So, embarrassment is generally kind of short term. Like if I trip coming out of my office today, I'd probably be embarrassed. Whether people were present or not, there'd probably be a little bit of embarrassment, but that's not going to last for very long. Like I might get home, you know, grab a drink, lay down, something like that, and it should dissipate. Shame is similar, but what happens is it's really about a core feature or quality of a person. So if I trip and then I think I'm such an idiot, I'm such a klutz, this is why no one likes me or I can't get the job I want or whatever the case is, that's more related to shame and not embarrassment. So it's also helpful to kind of work with that with yourself to really identify, what do I actually struggle with? Part of how to also kind of embrace embarrassment more and even shame is to really start to lighten up on yourself. So oftentimes when we take ourselves really seriously and we take life really seriously, things become we're much more rigid and we have much less flexibility. So I'm not saying that there aren't serious things happening in your life or the lives of people around you, but you don't necessarily have to take it seriously. You can still be with those experiences. You can still respect, the energy of your experience without taking it seriously. And that's also something to work on. How do I take myself and my life and my mishaps and other people's mishaps less seriously? And ultimately, one thing to kind of shift away from is this idea I never should have done fill in the blank that caused the embarrassment. Because what we want to adopt is a mind that learns from our mistakes and takes the lessons. Because in every failure, there is a lesson if we choose to look for it. There's also a trauma. If we choose to look for it, it's going to be up to us.